Hey y'all, I am kind of all kinds of messed up. I just looked out there. Oh goodness, the gate isn't working. It's been one of those days already. Uh my husband went off for his thing he does on Wednesdays where he teaches kids to pass the TOEFL test so they can get scholarships to go to college in the US. Okay, so if you don't know who I am, I'm Suzanne Titkemeyer. I used to write a column for Patheos called No Longer Quivering for almost 10 years. Involved Quiverfull religion and evangelical Christianity. Um, do all the YouTube things, please. I'm not going to beg you to do that, but I'm just mentioning it. These are just my opinions. Please don't bully anybody I talk about. And I'm not going to be talking about much people today. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit today about the police here. Hey, Dances in the Rain. Thank you. Thank you. I am all kind of flustered today because I started working out again and it has to happen at a certain time. I have to eat lunch at a certain time. I have to do this and this to make it work. And I did today. So I was like, yes. So we are now in dry season here in Costa Rica, which means sunshine, 12 hours a day, no rain, no clouds. It's wonderful. And that's when I want to go outside and watch. There's a woodpecker putting together a nest in our yard. Just watch the animals and the birds and things. So I exercise outside so I can do that. I want to talk a little bit today about what it's like dealing with the police here. And maybe a little bit at the end about some of the crazy drama going on again this morning. It's like, okay. There are multiple different types of police here. When we lived in the Washington, D.C. area, it was kind of like that because they had the U.S. Park Police, they had the Capitol Police, they had the D.C. Police. There were all these different little agencies had their own police department. So it was kind of hard sometimes to figure out which police you needed. It's the same way here. You've got your Transitos, you've got your OJI. I forgot what they're called, what that means. There's every time you turn around, you're looking at some cop's badge going, okay, you're a different weird type I've never seen before. And I have to throw this out real quick. Bribery is illegal here, very illegal. So I'm not advising anybody to pay a bribe. It's illegal for you. It's illegal for them. They catch you doing it, they can invalidate your visa and send you on out of here. That being said, the 6 trillion different types of cot shops. I have to start with a funny story about the police here. Earlier this year, I had a silent bladder infection. I didn't even know that thing existed until then. And I ended up in the hospital. On our ride back from the hospital, we got pulled over. We got caught in a traffic stop because traffic stops are very common here. You see the cops will set up, they'll put out movable speed bumps, and you'll have to go through there, and then they'll just wave your side if they want to look. We've usually been waved through those things. We're older, we're both gray hairs. Right now we're driving a brand spanking new car, so they can't even gig us for not having the right thing with our car because everything's brand new and shiny. So we got waved through this thing. We got waved into this thing to stop. And my husband and I are like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And we're scrambling with our paperwork, trying to find the copies of our passport. And I'll explain why that's important in a minute. Everything. And the guy walks up, the police officer walks up, and he has a folder in his hand. He has a folder. And when I mean a folder, I mean like a regular manila folder. He's smiling and he hands it to us. So we open it up and there was a little thing in there in English, a little squib written down where it talked about the septic tank and the whole septic system at the police station was completely ruined and they had no baños, no facilities for going to the bathrooms. They were trying to raise money to put in a sewage system, to put in a new septic tank. So we kind of laughed at that. We laughed at the fact he figured out we were gringos just looking at us. So we had to slip him some money. Said, okay, I'm going to give you $40 towards your septic tank because everybody should have access to baños. Everyone. So that was the funniest stop we've had. You don't see them sitting around with radar guns like you do in the States. Not at all. And it's very difficult to prove you're speeding. But here's the thing about the police in Costa Rica you need to be very, very aware of as a gringo here. Hey, flying mom. They're all corrupt. They're so corrupt, it's ridiculous. And what do I mean by corrupt? I mean, they'll pull you over, have their hand out looking for a bribe. The thing that I was just warning you is illegal. They all seem to want it. There is one particular road here between Santa Cruz and Tamarindo, this back road that I take in, that is notorious. They crawl through there looking for rental vehicles. Certain very corrupt cops there and always want a bribe. Now, my husband did pay a bribe one time because his driver's license from the States had a huge crack in it. So they were trying to gig him big time. They were going to say, okay, we're going to pull in your car. We're going to take your license plate. We're going to do X, Y, and Z because you don't have a proper license. He paid the guy $100. I was kind of livid when I heard because, first of all, that's way too much of a bribe. Second of all, really? I've been pulled over once on that road, and he told me I was speeding, and I said, well, show me your speed gun. And he said, no. And I could tell he didn't have one. He was on a motorcycle. So I just said, bye, see, and I drove off, figuring he would not chase me, and I was right. He was just after a bribe. So while it's illegal for you to pay bribes, a lot of times you'll run across cops that that's what they're looking for. They're looking for that bribe because they don't make them much money here. So the thing with the bribe, it is bizarre. They want that. And I've heard tell of gringos having their passport seized by these guys. Oh, it's going to be $1,600. You know what the average bribe cost is here? Most Costa Ricans pay $5 to $10. With gringo upcharging, a lot of us here, we know better than to ever pay more than $20 if you're going to have to pay somebody off because they're claiming that you've done something wrong. $20 or a nice, snappy slothy 10 mil note. We usually do the trick. There's no need to pay $1,600. But if you got somebody who's insisting on it, whip out this bad boy or a $20 bill and you can be on your way. This is roughly about, I guess, about $18 here right now. It's got a picture of a sloth on it. Oh, and all the money here is plastic, if you can believe that. That's kind of weird. And if you're going to give somebody a bribe for this stuff, they say don't hand it to them. Just don't say, here you go. You have to, they're going to hold they're going to hold the book. They're writing their tickets and out to you. And you're going to take that bill and just stick it down in the very bottom of that book. And then you're going to wave, they're going to wave, and you're going to go on about your day. So I'm not advising doing that. But it does seem to be the reality here of the police, besides the fact that there's 10 trillion different types of cop shops here. And some of them are very limited in their abilities. If you ever have to file a complaint where somebody has ripped you off, it's better to go to OGI rather than it is to go to the Transitos or the local public feudies. Yeah, I think it is something like that. Guys, those guys are useless. So you have to get to the guys who are who actually do the investigation. If you pay a bribe once, though, will they look for you again for another bribe? That's a really good question, number one fan. I haven't heard anybody say that they've been targeted over and over again. But like I said, they're on the lookout on certain back roads. That's what they're going to do. They're not going to pull you over on the main stretch of town. And it's kind of funny because every Friday and Saturday night here, you can pretty much count on they're going to set up a DUI trap somewhere going in and out of Tamarindo, which is one paved road. And there's really no way around that unless you do back roads in the middle of the night. Now, I felt inclined to talk about this because I was looking at Tamarindo Richards' YouTube channel, and he was talking about this, about how bribery is illegal, but it's a way of life here. It's a fact of life, and you have to be ready for it. I've only had one ask me for a bribe, and I drove off. I have gotten stopped a couple times and stuff, especially during COVID. During COVID, they were brutal. They had stops every which way, and they were always asking to see your passport. And here's the important thing about not showing your passport here. If you show your passport to one of these guys who's corrupt, he's going to seize it and tell you $1,600 or however much he decides. I heard 500, somebody asked. 200, they're going to come up with some number they think your passport is worth to you and tell you to come down to the cop shop and pay the money, or pay the money right there. They'll give you your passport back. Smart money. Do not ever give them your passport. Never, 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 never give anyone who is Policia here your passport. The way we get around this, and a lot of Americans do, is you take your passport, you open it up, and you make a copy. I got a copy right here. You make a copy in color of the first page. It has your name and all your information. Then you open it, your passport, to your latest visa stamp, and you make a copy of that. So if they ask you for your passport, I always say, I don't have it with me, but here. So if they ask you for your passport, I always say, I don't have it with me, but here is my information. They can't seize a piece of paper and try to shake you down for money if you do that. That's the reason that everybody I know here does this, to avoid the big shakedown to get your passport back. Because losing your passport here is a huge, huge deal and kind of a pain in the butt. And I always tell people, if you have any kind of problems with the police, anything, on seizing your passport, whatever, contact the U.S. Embassy. They have some very useful information there on their website. And also, if you can call the embassy, they'll help you out sometimes with these things, particularly if you've lost your passport. They'll get you another one. So it's always very useful to have their number programmed into your phone. I also get near daily emails from them. I get warnings about when roads are closed. The one the other day was about, we're coming up on Christmas, so there's a whole lot more armed robberies and just general little piddly crime, because most of the crime that we have here in Costa Rica, it is almost to a man this petty crimes where they'll pick up something, they'll steal something. And when you ship your things in, expect some of them to go missing, because it seems to be a place where there's a lot of corruption, where there shouldn't be corruption. And they're trying to clear that up. The government here is hell on the cops when they catch them shaking people down. It happens all the time. I'm hoping one of these days it will stop happening. And yeah, the police here, like I said, darn close to useless. So if the cops are darn close to useless, what do? Well, a lot of people jump through the hoops to get a weapon. It's different than in states where you can walk in and buy your gun and be out. It's very different. You have to apply. You have to show them you're not crazy. You got to go through a psych test and all of that. And then if they say you can, then you'll buy one. A lot of people I know have weapons here. Me, myself, I do have some weapons here. I'm not going to explain what ones there are, but we're behind a 12-foot high concreto wall. There is a motion detector on the top of the wall. We have burglar alarms, cameras, a whole 9 yards. And we live in a gated community, so there's that. So it's one of those things where you say an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. And it's just very, very good to be like that. The other thing is we're careful not to flash our money at all here. A lot of times you see gringos show up and they're styling and profiling and wearing fancy gold jewelry and various things. The next thing you know, they're getting robbed or somebody's stealing their iPhone on the beach. It happens, but you have to be, like I said, very careful about what you're doing and who you're associating with. So that's another reason why I don't really take it seriously when somebody like Steven Anderson says, well, we're going to show up and shave your head. It's like, good luck finding me in one of the 10 trillion little villages around Tamarindo. Good luck. Good luck getting past the security guard. Good luck getting past the gate. Good luck not triggering the motion detector on my wall. Good luck. Good luck. So in that regard, so it is safer here than it is in the States. And I've had people say, oh, no, it's more worse. Well, I don't know. Here I've never had anybody bash in my door because they were drunk and they were trying to rob me, which I did have in the States. And all I did was pick up my sewing scissors and tell them to get out, and they did. But that stuff happens everywhere. Here, it's more crime of opportunity. And what do I mean by that? Well, one time, back on my BS, one time we had the gate open for some guys to do the work and some work, and our leaf blower disappeared. It's stuff like that. It's little stuff, little dumb stuff. And you just kind of, it's part of the price of living in paradise, I think. You just act smart, make sure you're not flashing cash at everybody. And it's safer than the States mostly. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about, there's so much drama going on right now in all the communities that I've been part of that I'm just kind of sitting back and looking at this and going like, whatever. I was almost late here more than a few minutes because I was in the living room folding clothes and watching Hidden Figures, a very positive movie with, a good message. And I'm trying to ignore everything. I'm trying not to engage in any of it. And it's funny because there are people engaging in it I don't like. There are people engaging in it I do like. And I'm looking at it going, why are you acting so stupid? Why? What's going on here? So there's a lot of that going on. And we just had the full moon a couple of weeks ago, last week, maybe. And I'm watching this and going, really? Really? That's the hill you're willing to die upon? Instead of just saying, bless your heart and moving along. For a lot of these things, saying bless your heart and just moving along is so much better. If you're going to die on a hill, make sure it's not a stupid one. Make sure it's a hill worth dying on. We were talking about that earlier today because Facebook has really cracked down on what they will allow. And I got gotten 3 months ago or so because I had made a silly joke about a Freddie Mercury coffee cup. And I ended up being put on a timeout for terroristic threat when I hadn't actually used any curse words. I hadn't threatened anybody. I said I would cut somebody if they tried to take my Freddie Mercury coffee cup. And that was it. That was somehow a terrorist threat. I'm seeing that starting to go down on Twitter. Example, there was a politician this morning that was talking about the evils of the COVID vaccinations. Now, I'm just going to throw out there, I'm not wild about the COVID vaccinations. There's been a lot of problems. But I understand why there's been a lot of problems because it wasn't thoroughly tested. Most of the vaccines we have are really thoroughly, rigorously tested. The COVID vaccines, it was a little bit different. They were trying to get them out as quickly as possible to help the most people. And they got them kind of wrong in some ways. I understand the technology they're made out of because I was on Xolair injections for almost 10 years and I did a ton of research about that. The mRNA drugs, the biologics have done innumerable good for so many people. My IgE levels are still way down. So I have had such a better quality of life from being on Xolair for almost 10 years. Well, 8.5 years. So I don't get it. I don't get all the conspiracy theories around it. So dude, no. I am sorry about that. We get these guys that are coming in here and pushing the sex links. And it's just like, so where was I? The art of the COVID vaccinations. So this was a politician that was pushing a fake narrative, something that you can prove that it's a fake narrative about them. So I started tweeting him back and I tried to call him an idiot, and Twitter, in their infinite wisdom, put a thing up that said, "Are you sure you want to tweet this tweet?" Well, yeah, I want to call the idiot. So it is there. It is there. And I got one funny side story I have to tell you before I go. One of the people, well, back when I was banned for terroristic threats for saying I would cut somebody, touch my Freddie Mercury coffee cup, my husband posted on his Facebook and he tagged me talking about I was in a timeout for a week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever it was, and I'd be back on soon. Well, one of the gals I used to go to church with in my old Fundy Town church popped up and said, "Suzanne blocked me. Why would she do that?" So she started ranting to my husband about what an evil, what I was for blocking her. And I was obviously listening to rumors. And I'm looking at this going, "Girl, I don't think you want me to go there. I don't think you want me to tell why I blocked you." And complaining to my husband about me blocking you is not going to make me unblock you either. If anything, it'll make me keep the block in place. Well, the thing was, I blocked her because she had lovely relations with her best friend's husband. Yep, and justified it, self-justified it. Got into a fight on Twitter with my best friend over it. Tried to say Jesus would approve of her affair. I was like, nope. So when I finally got off of probation, I had to go in there and say, "Do you really want me to spell out exactly why I blocked you? Do you? Do you? I don't think you do." And just leave it at that. So I had to write about that in pretty great detail in my book because that's one thing that happened that pretty much is the most astounding that I have to throw out there about Fundy Town. I calculated the other day that we had like 15% of people who are having affairs or having had affairs that I knew of that were openly saying, "Well, Jesus said it was okay for me to have an affair." 15%. And knowing how unmeasurable that was because of the fact that you don't know who actually has, who hadn't said anything about it. Jesus said it was okay. Yeah, they justified that to me. I had a number of them. I had one couple, the cheating couple, the husband and the wife told their spouses that they were with me one weekend, and I was not with either one. Neither one of them said one word to me about their affair. I didn't know anything. So when the husband said, "Oh, that was so nice of you to take take Alice into the city to see that Van Gogh exhibit. It's like, look, unless somebody knocked me on the head and gave me amnesia, that never happened. I wasn't with your wife last weekend. What are you talking about? And the wife of the husband that was cheating approached me that same day with the exact same. That was so nice of you. Girl, I am not giving away tickets to the Van Gogh exhibit, the very expensive Van Gogh exhibit at the Smithsonian. I wasn't taking anybody that couldn't afford to pay that. And I'd already seen it anyway at that point. I was like, what are you talking about? So I confronted both of the frolickers, and one of them denied it. She said, oh, I'm not having an affair with him. But I did think you'd cover for me because I did spend time with him that weekend. The man was like, yeah, we're having an affair. We're leaving our spouses and getting married. Jesus wants me to be with her. My wife pressured me into marrying her. And I'm like, and basically I broke off friendships with both people. And the man was pretty resistant to that. He was constantly trying to get in my space to force me to be friends with him again. And that was never going to work ever again. So how does he know what Jesus wants? I'm not recalling the Bible verse. This Bible verse. There is no Bible verse on that. It is just ridiculous, made up nonsense. And his justification, like I said, was he kept saying that his wife had told him that Jesus wanted them to get married and pressured him and them into marriage. And that like he had no choice in the matter whatsoever. And he said his wife wasn't his choice. It wasn't who God had for him. But this woman supposedly was. He said they were going to run off and be artists together. And all that sort of thing, which I wasn't real surprised at her because she had a reputation as being somebody that had had a pile of affairs. Eventually, the two of them divorced. The guy is still with his wife, this poor, beaten down, emotionally abused, childlike wife. He's still with her. He's still screaming out that he's going to divorce her at any moment. And the beat goes on. There's kind of a weird coda to that, too, because many years later, I saw the first wife, the cheater, Alice, at a political event. Her husband was running as the Democratic candidate for one of the seats in our town. And she recognized me and rushed up and begged me not to tell anyone, especially the media, about her lost weekends. Because now she was a college professor and had wonderful stature and was such a moral and whatever person. And she was afraid that I would tell the media. And I basically said, look, all that stuff is just water under the bridge by now. There's no need for me to tell the media. But I did include it in my book. I didn't tell her that I was planning on writing a book at some point. I would probably use the story of her and her little lover using me as a cover that had to do with the Smithsonian art exhibits. Because her and I were both artists. We both had studied arts. He was interested in art. I don't know if he'd ever studied it or not. So it was just kind of weird how that all played out. And it's kind of bizarre, too, because I was really surprised. His children turned out well. Hers did not. So it's always very interesting to me to see these super dysfunctional families and see what plays out with the children and who ends up successful and who ends up not. Okay, now I've rambled enough about laws in Costa Rica and cheating Quiverfull Christians. You wouldn't think that they would be the type that would cheat, but yes, they cheat as frequently as anybody else does, apparently, which is a sad, kind of a sad thing. I'm smiling, but it's a sad commentary on our world. But it was just one of those bizarre stories that came out of the old church. When I tell it, to documentarians and others, they like drop their book. It's like, what? Okay, you guys, I am going to go. My husband's gone. He's teaching his little TOEFL classes. And I have 10,000 mountains of laundry to fold and put away. No fun. No rest for the wicked. Love you guys, and I'll see you later.